Greetings and welcome back to a Sappho Academic. I got another reaction video. I really enjoyed this podcast with Tony the Closer and Yungeen Ace. Yungeen Ace has said some interesting things that I want to touch on, but overall, I like the approach that Tony the Closer took. I believe this is more of the approach or more of the discussions and dialogue Black men need to have concerning issues within the community. Um, I just really respect the way Tony, the closer, was able to give Young and Nate space to be himself and also try to give game, but not be judgmental at the same time too. I think it's very difficult to deal with these types of conversations in terms of a beef that's public and the investigation is ongoing. There's a lot of different factors, but I have to give my respect to Tony the Closer for doing this interview and doing the interview the way that he did because he could have done this interview like a culture vulture, but you can tell that he actually cares about the culture compared to some of these other figures in the space that I'll not name. But I think it's very important for somebody to actually come from the culture to be able to talk about these things in a mature way and balancing everything, the respect and not being judgmental at the same time too. But we're gonna start off with this clip, which was like the trailer for the podcast.
After Jay funeral, the feds blitz me.
So he's talking about Jada Youngin's funeral.
You can't handle security guard.
Say what?
They tell me I can't handle security guard. They tell me straight up, like, by the next time I got security guard, they're gonna take me to jail for that. It's like, but y'all want me with no security guard. Y'all already say I can't have guns. And y'all want me no bulletproof truck, no bulletproof car. So what the fuck y'all want me to do? You feel me? That's fucked up. So it's like,
So basically, he's saying how the feds are telling him that he can't have no security, he can't have any guns. It's actually illegal for him to have guns anyway, so it's obvious he's not allowed to be around guns with the charges that he has, and apparently no bulletproof trucks. So it's interesting. I don't know why he would open up and say that, but I just found it very interesting. But he makes one more comment.
so what y'all want me to do that?
Yeah, he says, so do they want me to just die? And the short answer is yes. Yes. Expeditiously. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful or anything. It's not like the feds are picking a side in this beef with Julio Fulio. For people that don't know, there's back and forth to say the least going on with Young and Ace's people and Julio Fulio's people based out of Jacksonville. So this is a lot. This is very similar to uh DJ Academics in the war in Chirac. I'm not saying in terms of the coverage, but a lot of what was being put out, especially in the music too, it was essentially open for the public to consume. And a lot of the stuff they were talking about, a lot of the crimes they were talking about, they're putting it directly into the raps. So yeah, Tony the Closer does ask about that. I'll get into it, but it's I'm just trying to figure out why he would say this because I don't think Julio Fulio has uh said anything similar to that. If I'm wrong, let me know, but I don't know, it seems in a way he's trying to gain sympathy for the situation. And Tony the Closer, I salute to him. I have to give my props to him for the way he conducted the interview. But to be honest, I mean, this is a situation where Young and Ace basically made his own bed. So, I mean, he should know that he has to sleep in it by the end of the day. All this beef being public and mainstream. And the thing about this beef, is because it could be one thing for rappers in cities to beef with each other, right? But then it's another thing for the beef to go mainstream and go from not from local to international, right? Because I don't want to say people all over the world seeing this video, but I'm sure everybody who's ever heard the original song with Vanessa Carlton, the Thousand Mile song that they sampled out of it, I'm sure everybody has heard that song, must have heard this version of it one way or another. But I mean, definitely people in the West, probably people in Europe have probably heard this song that I'm referring to. And I'll get into that, but going back into what I was saying, Yungeen Ace, he did make this bed, so he does have to sleep in it. I don't know if he's trying to gain sympathy or he's just opening up. And I salute to him for opening up on other issues as well too. But this is something I don't think it should have been made public, to be honest. Because if it was the case, then there's really nothing the public can do about it at the end of the day. So that's just my thoughts. Um, the beefs, there's many beefs everywhere, I'm sure, between rappers, but the difference is when people start talking about, putting the actual homies in the songs, and then the songs get, I don't want to say radio play. I don't know if drill songs in Jacksonville are getting radio play. I know that was the case in Chicago with drill songs getting played on the radio. I don't want to say 24/7, but the radio play really amped up the tension because it's being played everywhere. I can't even imagine in Toronto, some of these big stations playing some Toronto drill songs. That would be crazy, and that would just amp up the tension, the feelings, and everything. So I'm gonna go on to the next part. So the root of the chaos that was interesting.
Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes it just escalate from other little shit or some
Small fight or whatever.
it just that's just sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I don't know. That shit be it makes you not go to school because you like yeah, you could die at school, bro. Dying at school. Come up in that. Come up in that. Get you. Someone come get you.
But it started from like, it just started from like, you from a girl? Is it some,
Nah, hell no. Hell no.
like what type of get to where like, bro, it just seemed like when it got that many people involved, and that, like, it just, like, how the fuck do y'all get into that?
Sometimes
Well, I will say this was a bit of a Fed question, to be honest. This was a bit of a Fed question to ask. I mean, there's really no way Young and Ace can answer this question and not really, incriminate himself, essentially. It's a very tough question. I mean, Tony Closer, I see what he's doing, but that was a bit of, I don't want to say that he's a Fed or anything, but that was a Fed type of question to be asking. I think you should have reworded it in a different way because 100% Young and Ace is not even going to say why it happened, but he does even say that. Well, I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna keep playing it.
I don't know. Sometimes it just escalate from other little shit or some
Small fight or whatever.
it just that's just no shit. It's
Yeah.
escalate. I don't know it. I can't even tell you for real. To be honest with you. It just escalate.
You see, he says he doesn't even know, and I think when he says he doesn't know, I he I'm sure he does know in terms of how it escalated between him and Julio Fulio, but I think with a lot of these gangs is that the youth get come into the gangs and they inherit beef. So there's this idea of tension that already existed within the gang. The new members come into the gang, and now essentially they inherit whatever ops and beefs that they're dealing with in terms of the gang as an organization, essentially. So that is what is fueling it between the tension between different sets or whatever. This is going back decades and decades, but youth is still getting into the tension now and it escalates between whatever whatever back and forth clashing of heads between the youth of today, and then they create their own tensions um between themselves. But the only reason those tensions even started is because the beef was from decades ago. Hopefully you're following me, but essentially beef is inherited. I'm not saying this is the specific case with Yungeen Ace and Julio. There is several what's the word? Not documentaries, but several, I guess, YouTube videos trying to explain the origin of the beef. I know Trappler Ross, he probably had the most popular one because it spoke on a lot of details that a lot of people in other videos didn't mention. So if you look at his video as the base, because he does a lot of videos he does a lot of content about beefs between like gangs and rappers, so on and so forth. So that's basically his type of content. So he did the Young and Ace, Julio Folio. He talked about the song, right? So when we're looking at it from that aspect, there's a lot of there's a lot of history behind gang beefs, essentially.
Escalate. Sometimes it's be over. People might say the wrong thing. People might say something about your dad, homeboy. It's escalate. Probably be playing.
When,
That ain't no plan.
speaking of the dead homeboys, man, I was just watching your video crazy as hell. Y'all, this is crazy. Yeah, this is crazy, man. I just watched your video, man, and it's creative as well. Did you get that cleared?
So he's talking about this video, Who I Smoke, the Vanessa Carlton song. I mean, if you heard Vanessa Carlton, oh man, how to even explain the song? This was like drill pop. This was the first drill pop type of song. There was a previous song that's involved in this beef, um, that used the song Somebody That I Used to Know, but it was just a freestyle. It didn't pop. It didn't pop, but yeah, there's been more of a trend, a wave, essentially, of using pop beats for drill songs. It sounds very counterintuitive, but like Tony the Closer said, to me, in my opinion, it sounds like fire. I'm not gonna lie. Um, and see, look at this, because this is the video, right? Let's see how many views now. Damn, 42 million views. Okay. So, um, Julio Fulio, he had the response When I See You, and he uses the Fantasia song, right? He got 36 million views, but look at this. I'm not signed in, so this is a fresh incognito browser. I'm not signed in at all, and this is the first recommendation for the next video. So YouTube does play a part in these beefs as well too. Um, but I'm not gonna get into that. I'm gonna continue on. So this song got cleared, right?
Yeah, I got that clear.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, I got that clear. Gotta get me something up.
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
Who we doing this for money, huh?
Yeah. So that's dope. So you did actually get the track cleared.
Yeah, I got it clear. Same week. Same week.
Wow. Okay. Because that was one of the things I was definitely wondering is like, were you able to monetize?
I actually got on the phone with Vanessa and shit. I was talking to her about the whole process of the whole song.
Okay.
She actually loved that.
Oh, that's crazy.
She actually loved it. People made it seem like people want to bring it to her like on some whole like the whole meaning and that, but like, man, it's art, man. All this is art. So you can't tell me how to create my art. You feel me? Like, whether it's real or not, I'm creating it. So you can't tell me how to create it. You can't tell me I'm wrong for doing this.
Did you expect it to go as viral as it
already know
did?
it was.
You did?
Yeah. I sent it to the label. I told them straight up, just don't be that one. I be knowing sometimes. Like I
Yeah.
just know what's gonna spark sometimes just because I just man, this world negative as hell, man. They reflect off negative.
Yeah.
If you do, imagine, no matter all the good I do, not even just me, other artists, other people, NFL players, athletes, whatever, no matter what good everybody do, they only recognize the bad.
That's a fact.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even disagree with him on that point, but there needs to be more education on why. I mean, there needs to be more education on who owns the record labels, right? Who owns the record labels? There needs to be more. There needs to be more of that and learning the ins and outs of these record labels, who owns them, the distribution, even streaming, YouTube as well too. There needs to be more education. That's one aspect. It's not gonna fix everything, but even the consumers as well have a part to play in. Each generation of rap has a part to play in as well too. There was a conscious generation of rap. There was a song. It goes self-destruction. You're headed for self-destruction, right? Essentially talking about the self-destruction that we are currently in, essentially. Um, there was a conscious era, but there was the golden era. And the golden era, it did speak on, what was going on in our culture, 100%. And, there's been defense about how rap in a way is like the news. Cameron said it first, actually. He said rap is like the news. What's different between rappers and CNN? He actually was one of the first to be saying that. And he does have a certain point, but to an extent, because then we're we're talking about a different aspect now where people are talking about people's loved ones and putting them and sort of immortalizing them in an infamous way, not immortalizing them in a celebratory way, but in an infamous way, an infamy way where they're being disrespected every time that song comes on. It hurts the family. So this is definitely a different aspect, drill music specifically, because I think rap without drill, rap will still be okay because there is issues with rap. There is a lot of degeneracy within rap as well too, but I think some of those issues would be better to work out, especially in the coming future and the coming generations. Rap is and hip hop culture is evolving. Some people say it's evolving for the worst. Other people say it's evolving for the better because they're making more money essentially. And there's a lot of different takes, but essentially it all goes back to who owns it, who still owns it, where, the people that, feed the culture are essentially not the owners of it. It's like the NFL and the NBA, the players who make the game spectacular are still not the owners of it. So rap hip hop culture is going through the same thing. We don't own anything. So that gives people from other cultures the opportunity to exploit our pain. But it does go back to the consumer and what Yungeen Ace said. I don't want to take too much away from his point, but it's all about the consumer and what the consumer wants.
It's a bar right there because I mean, even with me, man, I went into Walmarts and blessed thousands of people, giving money back, all that. You know, remember? Oh, you check this over here, or you did this right here. That like
They point out the
they
bad.
point out shit that like that they don't like about me. They smoke weed online while
Well,
he's supposed to be teaching real estate. People always find the negative in something, so that is right. That's definitely a fact.
and that's how the world is, man. That's why the world's so fucked up.
Yeah.
That's why because people just, man, no matter what going on, man, the good, man, they don't see that shit. They don't care about it at all. You do something bad happen to you, man, you can have, like, I'm just saying artists, rappers. They post their music grind hard every day, do giveaways, whatever, like, you feel me? All day. Work hard, music, spit their soul into that. Like, nobody want to pay attention to it, but soon as they die,
That's the
they
weird.
go number one.
That's the weird part.
That's fucked up. You should show that love when it was here. And I probably wouldn't even been in that predicament, that situation. Because if you show that same love, I'd be bigger and I'd be thinking bigger. Not, but it ain't their fault though. You feel me? I'm just saying, like,
But you saying something real because every time you see an artist die, their music trends. All the
man, when Jason died, bro, every last one of his albums was in the top 100. Every last one of them. So it's gonna take from tragic death for you to recognize what's going on. Feel me?
right.
I don't know, bro. I don't know. I try to stay away from all this. Give me another subject going on.
I will say that Yungeen Ace is showing a level of awareness about what's going on around him. I wouldn't say he's completely lost in terms of his perception of reality, but he does have some type of grasp about You know, like if he wasn't in his situation, well, I shouldn't say that. I should say for somebody in his situation, he does have an awareness that I didn't really think that he has. So he is showing a lot within this interview, I have to say. And I think Tony the Closer, he did a good job of making him feel comfortable enough to speak on certain issues around, you know, the main investigation that can be talked about. So
So what do you feel about the music industry in general? Do you feel like it's just like it's designed for the boy? The
Definitely. That's man. I be in my own little lane. I'm invading. I'm going steps I want to go. A lot of people go to steps they want that the world want them to go. I'm going my way because I'm gonna make it going my way.
what like when
so
I
I'm
heard you
gonna
mention
go
your
to
sign to the
this
label, right?
next part
Who you signed with?
about
Some matters.
responsibility.
You know what I'm saying? Like flashy cars.
Oh no. I want to give Tony the Closer the ad time, but
You know,
ain't got
they
time.
stop dreaming about that. You ask young kids like, "What you want?" Like, I want me a gun. Like, damn, you don't want. They like, damn, you don't want a Lambo? You don't want no Rolls Royce? You don't want no what you want? I want me some bodies. This young shit going on.
Let me ask you a question. Your music, man. You feel like you got any responsibility with like, cause these kids fuck with that.
Yeah.
You know, my son's 16. And you like, you know, like when he see this video right, he gonna lose his mind. He ain't never been around no shooting, no nothing. But this be listening to the hardest shit. Man, I come in the room with them like, who was you listening to?
Yeah.
And this is crazy. You know, what is the allure to gangster rap? And I think it's pretty simple. I think it's really the power aspect to it. To even the gangs as well too, because gangster rap and gangs, I don't want to say go hand in hand, but they're part and parcel of the same culture essentially. I think it's a power. When you look at the Italians, right? How did the Italians become very known to the world, to the outside world, outside of Europe, pretty much? That was predominantly through mafia films, because when you look at it in that aspect, in terms of entertainment, the movies and the music are two different forms of entertainment. But I think with the movies, people are able to differentiate a little bit more between um reality and what's on screen, because a movie, you it's sort of like you're having this world put in front of your face. Music is sort of, I guess, embedded in the person's life on different degrees essentially. But you know, the mafia movies was based on, you know, real life, on the real Italian mafia. So when you look at it in that aspect, why the Italian mafia is glamorized, the Italian mafia represents a small percentage of the entire Italian worldwide population, even in Italy as well too. Like the Italian mafia is not the majority of the Italian people, but in terms of the Italian mafia and why those movies became so successful, it essentially became its own genre. You know, the Italian mafia genre, essentially its own category of movies, essentially. I think when you look at it at that aspect, the allure is the power. And I'd have to say in Italian movies, they definitely show the highlights, but they also show the downfall as well too. In rap, I don't want to say in rap, the downfalls is literally everywhere. I mean, I would say it's about the same in terms of entertainment and the message that is given out. The downfalls is clear in rap, 100%, but I don't want to say it's more glamorized than Italian mafia movies. Um, I mean, it's hard to compare the movies to the music, but I would definitely say that it is balanced. So we look at the popularity of mafia movies, look at the popularity of gangster rap. It's definitely the allure of power, being, you know, that idea of alpha as well too. But the difference between the Italian mafia and rap music is that the Italian mafia, They essentially run the organizations, they run the production of Italian movies because no Italian movie, if they're going to use any type of inspiration, is going to get an okay. It won't be able to be produced without getting some type of okay, right? In terms of gangster rap, the rappers don't own the industry, other people own the industry, so the image can be controlled, right? What is pushed out there can be controlled. I did say that the consumers, it's about what the consumers want as well too, but at the same time, the music labels have the power to put out any type of music that they want. They could push out any type of music into the radio that they want because it's all about paying these uh paying these radio stations the money to have radio play. I mean, it's cut and dry. It's that simple. So they could push out any song, but there's a reason why you hear a certain type of song over and over and over and over again. With the entire diversity of music that we have new music coming out every year, but we have the same songs playing on a daily, monthly, sometimes even yearly basis, essentially. So I understand what needs to be played has to be hot and current, but out of 24 hours in the day, how how much time are you going to put into playing the hottest songs? You could probably play the hottest songs within 2, 3, 4 hours. So what's the justification for having, I don't want to say 24-hour play, but essentially full day play 24/7, right? But that could definitely lead to different conversations.
Do you feel like, I mean, obviously creating art, but do you feel like you got a responsibility to like these kids that now they want to operate like you?
You say your
Good
son,
question.
Yeah.
So how? Your son listen. He ain't got no ops. So how? We trap, bro. They ain't music. That's the case of the movies too. Actors. They
Yeah.
act. Directors. They direct. The same.
Do you get nervous when you look at like something like Young Thug, YSL, they get hit with a Rico? Like, no. Art.
Art, man. Freedom Boys too. Feel me? Art, man. They just want you because they see you winning.
So he's using this the argument of art. He also makes another good point that his son doesn't have no ops and that essentially the rappers are the ones that are trapped. And I get that, but at the same time, there needs to be a conversation about vibrations and energy and what's being put out into the universe. I know that's a completely deep and a lot more complex discussion, but yeah, I'll continue
They
on.
doing something, bro. I mean, they did nothing. They doing something. They just want to push shit. But it's like we rappers. It's just, like I'm getting at like with directors, man. It's the same. It's the same. You got a movie. You can't kill the movies. So why when I rap it's
See, I say the same thing.
What's
So,
the difference?
see, I say the same thing. So I'm, like,
I wouldn't say it's the exact same thing. I would say there's differences. Like I said, people going in front of a movie screen, it starts and then it ends. Same thing with a TV show, it starts and then it ends. It's almost like a vacation in a sense, if you look at it in that sense. Because you wouldn't say movies and the news are the exact same. I know there's issues with legacy media, but essentially the news, the a journalist's job is to put out the news essentially. That's what journalism is. So music now, look at music as more as therapy because people aren't going out listening to movies as they're going and going about their day essentially. They're listening to music on a day-to-day basis. So music is more of a therapeutic way of looking at it. And that therapy, too much of that therapy could be harmful with having those certain messages being played over and over and over again in your head, right? Because it's like with hot music and pop music, and trending music or whatever, how much of the day can you really listen to it? Can you listen to it like, on your way to work or while you're working? Can you listen to it at the gym? Can you listen to it at the club? Yeah, you can listen to it at the club, but how many times can you listen to club music over and over? And I'm talking about talking about the radio play aspect of that and the consumers and everything. With the drill music, it's not like movies because in a sense with what they're saying, the people that they're putting into their raps and the beef, the tension going on back and forth, it's as if is the artist is creating the drill artist specifically is creating the art, but they put themselves into the art. So it's like they call this they call this they call a certain scene in movies called the Hancock scene essentially. And Hancock, he was a movie director. I don't even think his name was Hancock. I think I got the wrong name. But basically there was a movie director that put himself in a scene. He would have one line or something. That is what that scene is. I forgot the exact name, it's slipping my mind, but that is essentially like what rappers are doing. They're putting themselves into the song, and the song is about beef because we're talking about drill. We're not talking about the broad aspect of rap. He wants to take the broad aspect of rap and music in general, and he's like, I'm an artist. But you cross that line when you put real people and real situations into that art. Even in like Spanish music, I forgot the exact term, but like there's a specific name for songs that tell true stories or inspired by true stories. I think the name was like Gorditas or something like that, or might got it completely wrong. But there's actually a specific genre in Spanish music that talks about songs that are real life stories. So I don't, I'm not buying the whole artist thing, especially when it comes to drill. Drill is a different aspect of the artist that they're trying to attach to the original aspect of the artist. So I'll continue.
So here you,
I ain't even listen. I ain't even hit to y'all say that. You feel me? I'm just
Yeah.
listening to rappers be. You know what? It's so crazy because I was talking to my brother about BTC lost track. We were in the Jeff and we just chop. No, when we talk, that's one thing that made me like. He be trying to pick. But he young though. He like one of the young ever been around. Feel me? And he just was like, and we just talk. And I'm like, bro, they trying to use his, they try to use his music against him. What they did.
With Capital One alerts, we'll let you know about things like payment due
Got
dates or
another
double
ad.
charges.
Crazy.
Turning decades of information into a source of future inspiration. That's what really matters.
But how can you do that? It's freedom of speech. How could you do that?
so they did use music against
Yeah.
him. Yeah.
But how? You're more likely to have this because you rapped about it.
But
That ain't true.
keeping it a buck though, a lot of it be like it be seeming like they telling on themselves.
Not necessarily, bro. You gotta think about the news show. A lot of people rap about what's on the news. A lot of people just create. A lot of people don't even, man, a lot of people don't even, man, how the hell rappers? No, bro. Hell,
I mean, like this, I mean, I'm just keeping it a buck.
just think about it though. Check this out. If a rapper way in Cali, and he from way from Philly, how in the hell can he do this in Philly if he way in Cali? He's just talking about what's going on. He's just being a voice. That's right.
What you think about?
Yeah, but when there's gangs connected and there's actual street beef, like he wants to, I mean, he can't say exactly what's going on, so he has to give this sort of answer. So in a way, I'm not even gonna get into it, but no, because now he's talking about the news aspect, and I've mentioned this already before. So now it's like that's the thing, though. The art has become the news movie mixed. Well, specifically with the drill, because we're talking about the drill. The drill is what Tony the Closer has to press him on because he wants to talk about the general art. We get the general art, but within the drill, in terms of this and other people and their homies, because they're dead, that's really the only reason, and for it to be as disrespectful as possible, is giving police not the evidence, but the blueprint onto what's going on the streets. So essentially, he's ignoring the self-snitching aspect. He's not, I don't know why rappers still don't realize this. I could go off about certain podcasts being the FEDS. We all know who. I'm not gonna name it, but I don't agree because yes, everything in the Jacksonville war between ATK and KTA has been put on the news on Jacksonville News. He is right about that, but at the same time, you're putting he's putting himself in a position to be blamed for it. And if he's not blamed for it, if they can't find the evidence against him, they're gonna find the evidence against somebody else because you're telling the police where to look. It's like, hey, if it wasn't me, it's one of my people. So
It's different from the rapping news.
Well, for one, the news ain't going online and posting shootouts and.
See,
I'm talking about like the ones that they are actually involved in.
they speaking on it though.
Yeah.
The rappers ain't none of them speaking on it. If they even speaking on that situation, our rappers would just be talking about what we doing in the movies. They just put their own little spin to it.
Do you think that what we saying now, obviously YSL, you say your homie, they use his lyrics against him. Are you gonna be more mindful of what you say now, or you just like
No. I ain't saying that wrong. I'm way out here. I ain't talking about nothing. Man, we creating, we making money, bro. But I got plenty of songs. But I got plenty of songs where I'm talking about pain. I got plenty of songs I'm talking about betting, releasing knowledge.
they looking for the ones that
Yeah, but they don't. But that's what I'm trying to tell you. They only go off what you the bad. What about the good music?
Yeah.
Not much good music that these YSL made.
Yeah.
I ain't even trying to get on any topic, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you, bro. I ain't even trying to go there. You feel me? Well, I'm on some shit now. Like, not much good music other people made. Not many hits people made. You feel me? But they don't be focused on that. You focus on the wrong. They ain't.
yeah, he's 100% correct. I'll give him that. I'll give him that. But in terms of the self-snitching, essentially what is going on, I mean, there's a long history of, you know, police being within hip hop. I mean, specifically NYPD, the hip hop police, right? There's a article from Complex. I'm not gonna go through it, but it talks about the history a little bit and the people that they target. There's another article here talking about the hip hop police, even talking about Takashi 69 essentially. So let me see. Right here, according to the New York Post, the task force, the hip hop police, makes a list of weekly rap shows and classifies them as either low, medium, or high risk in terms of illicit activity. So this whole patrol thing, this is just a farce. Okay, it's just a farce. The hip hop police, they have detectives as well. They're not sending detectives to go watch over hip hop shows. The hip hop police is not about policing hip hop shows. The hip hop police is about gaining information, gaining intel, and infiltrating, and not infiltrating at the shows. Well, yeah, infiltrating at the shows, but also getting into inner circles. I'll say that. I'll say that. They look at, I mean, with 6ix9ine Takashi, he is a new version of the hip hop police. I mean, where do I even begin? I mean, he's not gonna be called the hip hop police. There won't be any paperwork that he is the hip hop police, but what he did essentially was police work. He created this image. He was able to get targets attached to this image because Treyway, they were being investigated for a while already. So Treyway attached to this image of Takashi, and essentially, I guess Takashi, I mean, the story is Takashi wanted to get away. There was a hit put out, and that's when they got arrested. But I mean, he is industry plant, you know. I'm trying to be careful not to go off too far into conspiracy because hip hop police is not a widely known thing, but it is a thing in NYPD. I'm just saying the depth of it goes beyond monitoring and policing different types of shows, right? So we're talking to the broader context. I mean, I'm not saying there's a hip hop police in Florida, but the investigation tactics have definitely evolved since the hip hop police in the 90s, essentially. The investigation tactics, the detective work, the infiltrating has gotten a lot better, and now we're getting more and more RICO charges. I mean, there could be a conversation about the police state and how racist the police state is, but how many more times we as a people are gonna fall for that same police state, right? Yungeen Ace is not a he's not an older rapper. He's young, and I will cut him some slack because Florida is really not part of the main hip hop scene like historically, you know? So going back, you're talking about not having not being able to get security. He's inside, he's embedded in this beef, which is public, is gone international. We have fans coming out of nowhere picking sides when they have no place to pick sides, and that has nothing to do with them. They fan the flames from a computer screen, and then other black men are fighting and killing each other for it. I mean, the internet has put a lot of negative energy into this. The internet is just a new form of the radio stations that's playing the drill music. Now the internet is just playing the drill music 24/7. It never stops. The consumers are thirsty. So there's a lot of different factors. There's a lot of different factors. Um, in terms of the police telling Young and Ace about not having security, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know why he mentioned that. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if they mentioned the same thing to Julio Fulio, you know, but it all goes back into the hip hop police really and the surveillance because, you know, when you look at Tupac and Biggie and that feud and everything, none of the killers were brought to justice, but rappers are heavily surveilled. So rappers are heavily surveilled. How do they not have information about what could have possibly happened? And the answer is because they just want to watch. They'll just let the chaos go because that is going to help with other paperwork or is going to help with convictions by the end of the day. Essentially, black people get killed. They don't care because black people are thirsty to kill other black people. I mean, it is what it is. We could talk about social engineering and who owns the record labels and everything like that, but at a certain point, we have to recognize the anti-blackness and counteract the anti-blackness, or else we're just perpetual victims to the anti-blackness. And it is valid, but it gets to a certain point where, what are we gonna do about it by the end of the day? Right? Um, I mean, Young and Ace, he would be considered a high value target, you know. Julio Fulio too, if any of them, you know, were to pass, the other side, it will just get the other side more aggressive because whatever happens, the other side is gonna say something, other side's gonna retaliate, other side's gonna counter retaliate. And it's just a vicious cycle. If you look at that movie, there's a UK movie, independent movie, it's called Blue Story, right? And I would actually suggest that people go watch that movie. So I will give a spoiler. So I am giving a spoiler alert. I'm going to leave the spoiler alert on the screen until I'm done with the spoiler alert. Then I'll leave it off. So that's how people will know not to get the spoiler, right? But if you don't care, just listen on. So in the movie, essentially, basically a gang beef starts out. There's youth that gets into there's two gangs. There's youth that actually grew up with each other for a little bit and they end up splitting up and going to separate gangs, right? The gangs were beefing before they got into the gangs, and then they had their own incidents that sparked with each other. So that escalated the beef. So there was already a main beef, and nobody knew why there was a main beef. The youth got into the gangs, and then the two teens that were friends with each other became mortal enemies, essentially, right? And basically, at the end, people got betrayed. Essentially, a lot of people died. A lot of people went to jail. One person became a youth worker, and then there was actually a rapper. He was a younger rapper that was part of like the third generation of the gang. And then when his gang leader died, he essentially took on the beef and decided to continue forward. That's basically how the movie ended, with the rapper not preparing to get his get back, but ready to get his get back, because now he was pissed now because that was his OG that got killed in the movie. So he was a rapper himself, so he decided to carry on the legacy, and that's basically what's happening. The youth just carry on the legacy of previous beef that's probably going back decades and continuing on. So it's a very good story, and the way that they ended it, because it was realistic, right? Very realistic. So this is all gonna end with a Rico, unfortunately. This is how it's gonna end. It's just gonna end with people going to jail, people dying, and then that's it. And then there'll be something somewhere else. Um, I mean, this drill culture is getting deeper and deeper. Beefs is not what it used to be, and it changed within a span of like 10 years, essentially. Um, I mean, it's very unfortunate because, in terms of rap, there's money out there for everybody. There's international money. There's really money everywhere. And the cycles that's going on is not just about Julio, and Yungeen Ace. This is about what's really going on in the streets everywhere. It's just that theirs is the most famous, theirs is the most mainstream. They're making money out of it. They have the most eyeballs on the situation, but it negatively affects our community the most. That is the most important thing. So we do need to find ways of changing it. Um, I mean, if both Julio and Yungeen Ace both stay alive for the next 5 to 10 years, they will get hit with charges, and then the party is gonna be shut down. I mean, that's the only way this is gonna essentially end. But they're gonna be watched, and that's what the hip hop police do. They watch, they take notes, they build up information, they build up a case. And that's the most dangerous thing, is that they will allow the destruction to happen. They don't give a fuck. But you got to think about it. Why should they give a fuck? It sounds very condescending, but why should they care about our people? They're not going to. If you look at the history indicates that they will never look out for our people. So, yeah, I mean, in a sense, police watching rappers die and surveilling it and possibly even egging it on, fanning the flames, is definitely criminal, but who's at the center of it by the end of the day? That's the main issue. So I'm not gonna get too much into it. If you have a chance, check out the podcast with Tony the Closer. And that's it for this reaction video. Let me know what you think about this entire situation, and I'm out.